Nothing matters. The Mueller report didn't matter. Just, of course it didn't, because no matter what is said, there will be someone claiming left, right, top, down, whatever. It's nonsense. The Mueller report comes out. What do we learn? Potential attempts at obstruction of justice. No determination made, in which case, in a definitive sense, there was no obstruction. And that's kind of like a colloquial and simple way to put it. There was somebody who tweeted that, my video yesterday, was wrong because, or could be wrong because all these media outlets are saying they've been vindicated and they've been justified. Listen, I clearly stated at the very beginning of the video, you want to be fair, you can say two things. No collusion. Mueller found potential instances of obstruction or attempts at it that weren't carried out and ultimately made no determination. That's seriously that's literally what Mueller said. What do you have? I'm not going to blame conservatives when they say no obstruction because in a sense, it's a simplified way of saying there's no obstruction. There's no charge against Trump. Nothing was obstructed. There may be attempts. The left is saying evidence of obstruction because Trump tried. It's all framing. It's all nonsense. And of course, like clockwork, AOC and Ilhan Omar back Trump's impeachment in the wake of the Mueller report. Democrat firebrands insist Congress needs to investigate whether the president obstructed justice because it is our job. Imagine that. Here's the thing. Many of the circumstances that are being listed by the left as obstruction were attempts to, I don't know how to describe it because I'm certainly not going to give Trump a pass on these things. He was trying, in one instance he said this, Robert Mueller as special counsel is a conflict of interest. So here's what it sounds like. When Trump found out they were going to bring on a special counsel, he knew that regardless of whether or not he did anything wrong, this was going to screw with him. So it seems like he may have taken actions to try and restrict in some capacity. Ultimately, my opinion on the matter is irrelevant. Because in the end, Robert Mueller says, we're not exonerating him. We didn't really find evidence of a criminal obstruction. So there you go. But it doesn't matter because you're going to get AOC, Ilhan Omar saying obstruction of justice. It's just kind of crazy to me. There are some people who believe that obstruction can't occur if there's no underlying crime. And it's an interesting conundrum, which I don't have a particularly strong opinion on for a few reasons. Is it possible that the reason they didn't find a crime was because of obstruction? In this instance, no, because Trump didn't obstruct. He may have tried, but I think that at the very least, you could say Trump tried to obstruct in some way, was unsuccessful, we're done. Let's read about impeachment, though, because certainly the Democrats aren't going to stop. Like clockwork, they are now saying, this is it, this is what we need, it's time to impeach. Democratic congressional freshmen Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ilhan Omar have joined forces in voicing support for an impeachment order against President Donald Trump following the full release of special counsel Robert Mueller's report. AOC and Omar's stance marks a significant contrast to those of their more senior Democratic colleagues. But they believe the findings detailed in their report contradict Trump's assertions that he's been totally exonerated from any criminal wrongdoing. One area of contention for Mueller was whether Trump had attempted to obstruct justice during the investigation into potential Russian collusion into the election, and he was unable to state categorically that no criminal conduct occurred. He also didn't conclude that it did, leaving us to now fight amongst ourselves as we are now doing. Instead, he highlighted Congress's constitutional powers to investigate the matter further themselves if they saw necessary. The congressional newcomers believe it's their responsibility to conduct such a probe, and now they're urging their colleagues to answer the call. I despise these people, and they have just increasingly become more just, my God, I have never been so frustrated and annoyed because they are not legislating. They are not doing their jobs. They are just sitting here flailing their arms around about Donald Trump. And even I'm sitting here saying, yeah, maybe Trump did try to obstruct, but I don't care anymore. For the love of God, pass some bills, rescind some laws, change the system, fix problems, offer up solutions. Sitting there, wiggling your arms in the air, screaming about Trump does literally nothing. I just made a video about how Yuma, Arizona has declared a state of emergency because they got so many migrants. We're at record levels. Trump comes out and says national emergency. Fine, disagree with him, but do something. Instead, what do we hear over and over again? We got to impeach Trump. Why? Seriously, I am so sick and tired of these people grandstanding and acting like any of this matters. Look, it says, Ocasio-Cortez, while I understand the political reality of the Senate election considerations upon reading the DOJ report, which explicitly names Congress in determining obstruction, I cannot see a reason for us to abdicate from our constitutionally mandated responsibility to investigate. Many know I take no pleasure in discussions of impeachment. Oh, please. I didn't campaign on it and rarely discuss it unprompted. We all prefer working on our priorities, Medicare for all, tackling student loans, and a Green New Deal. But the report squarely puts this on our doorstep. You know why I just absolutely cannot stand this woman? I made a long Twitter thread about why we need student loan forgiveness. And and this is begrudgingly, because I knew people in college who used their loan money to party. And that pisses me off. It does. But you know what? We do have a serious crisis where our society told kids, you got to do this. You didn't. They screwed them over. And now because they're in debt, they're in so much debt they can't get out of, they're turning to people like Cortez. So you know what? Maybe the solution is counterintuitive, and we need to figure out some kind of forgiveness plan so people can get off of this debt and become entrepreneurs and get back into society, start building things instead of being weighed down and then begging the state. So it's counterintuitive. I don't want them begging for socialism, so maybe we have to get a little back. So I'm in favor of student loan forgiveness. The Green New Deal, at its most general idea, I actually agree with too, except what she's proposing is complete crap. Can we get the government to invest in new programs? We absolutely can. Can we repair our infrastructure? Oh, hell yeah. Can we advance nuclear technologies and renewables? Yes, 100%. Let's do it. And what is the Green New Deal? Guaranteed jobs. To who? How? Universal healthcare, universal college. It's a bill promoting socialism, and she's putting a green sticker on it to trick people. I am beyond my wits' end with this nonsense. Now she's sitting here going, oh, I hate to do this because I really just want to do the right thing, but we're going to have to impeach Trump. Shut up, dude. And you know, I'm gonna defer to Mr. Pete Buttigieg, okay? I'm giving this guy, I disagree with some of his policies. I think he's got a backwards view on Assange and Manning. But here's a tweet from Glenn Greenwald. Pete Buttigieg pretty clearly says Democrats should try to defeat Trump in 2020, not impeach him. Have any leading Democratic presidential candidates advocated impeachment? Not that I can find. But that's not the issue, Glenn. That's not the issue. And I'll say this to Glenn, pushing back on these ridiculous Russiagators, respect. But the issue is AOC is sitting here trying to impeach Trump. It's not so much whether or not Democratic presidential candidates are saying that. It's that the narrative emerging is people saying it's time to impeach. Well, Nancy Pelosi said we shouldn't do that, and you shouldn't do that. You're not going to win any favors by playing a silly game. No collusion. We wasted these years, and now because Trump was trying to obstruct for whatever reason, you now want to file for impeachment. You know what that says to me? You don't care about moving this country forward at all. You're playing a ridiculous partisan game, and God, I just cannot stand these people. When I look at Trump, I see someone who's boorish, oafish, condescending. He's kind of an asshole. Absolutely. Some of his policies work. Some of his policies are kicking the can down the road to leave for the next administration. And his foreign policy really pisses me off. I'm not a fan of any presidential foreign policy, so I don't put that on Trump entirely. You know, Obama did the same thing. In fact, Obama was worse. And George W. Bush did this. So I'll recognize the economy is great. And to that extent, I don't really know what to tell you. I'm not a fan of the guy. But I'll tell you what, when I see these people, I see duplicitous tribalism. They pretend like they care. They pretend like they actually want to solve the environmental problems, and they don't. What do? They create a Green New Deal, and they ask people, would you be in favor of government investing in programs to help, advance technology? And everyone goes, that sounds like a great idea. What they don't say is, would you be in favor of government mandated, universal healthcare, universal college, guaranteed jobs, and economic security for those unwilling to work? That is not a Green New Deal. That is utter nonsense. That makes no sense. Your plans are absurd and ridiculous. I don't believe she actually cares about any of these things. I don't believe that she even knows what the hell she's talking about because she thought an accounting error was going to was literally money. I'll tell you what. I'll give you $1. You give me the dollar back. We'll do it $100,000, and then we'll put on paper that you made $100,000 with a $100,000 expense. Sounds like you got money. It doesn't. It was $1. She doesn't seem to know what she's talking about. And now what do we have is that here's Ilhan Omar. Impeachment is part of our constitutional responsibility. We have an obligation to investigate whether the president committed impeachable offenses, including obstruction of justice, emoluments clause, collusion, abuse of power. Okay. There are some things that I think Trump has done that I think are absolutely worrisome. And particularly the commando raids, the stuff, he vetoed a bill that would have ended our essential, what people would refer to as the secret war in Yemen. I don't like what the United States is doing in these foreign countries, providing weapons. Tulsi Gabbard said that Donald Trump was the bitch of Saudi Arabia. And I feel that, I like Tulsi, it's a bit crude. And the way I see it is, I want to try and work in a moderate way to say to people, can we come up with a solution to stop this kind of foreign policy and war? I don't think Tulsi's statement helped on that matter. And I don't think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is helping either, because all you're going to do is rile up tensions and pander to your base, who you don't actually represent anyone anyway with these nonsense policies that were so embarrassing you had to pull it off your website and claim it was a mistake. But you know what? Let me throw the last word to Mr. Michael Tracy, another individual on the left who is absolutely disgusted by what these Russiagate nonsense crap is. And he says, demanding to impeach Trump on the basis of an FBI CIA conspiracy theory that utterly fell apart upon investigative scrutiny is not inherently principled or left-wing just because AOC is now advocating it. In fact, it's a capitulation to destructive establishment narratives. I'm just so sick of these stupid games. It's like, hey, we got problems. We need to lower the cost of healthcare. We need to improve the economy. We need to figure out how to help young people who are saddled with massive debt. I want to solve these problems. What are they saying now? Green New Deal. Crap. Just ridiculous nonsense, not solving the problem. So I feel like I'm stuck here in the middle, leaning slightly to the left. And I see Donald Trump offering up some solutions in some areas. And I'm kind of frustrated with his foreign policy. And I'm like, please, can we have someone come here, sit down and say, here's what we need to do? What do we have? Well, maybe we should impeach Trump. Oh my God, dude. You know what? I just have no faith. This is why I hate all politicians, every single one of them. And this is why I would never want to be involved in any of this political nonsense. You know why? Two reasons. For one, I just can't stand this ridiculous garbage system of tribalist nonsense where they're more concerned about telling their constituents, don't worry, I'll impeach the guy you don't like because he's orange or whatever, orange man bad. Instead of actually sitting down and doing anything. It's a silly game of complete and utter crap nonsense where people are slinging mud at each other. But the other thing is that there's no way someone like me would ever actually survive in this political landscape. You know why? Because of the things I would say like this. I agree with Michael Tracy. And Pete Buttigieg, appreciate it. He's right. I would sit here and say, I don't want to play a partisan, absurdist game of whether or not Trump should be impeached over the Russiagate conspiracy. It's a waste of our time. I understand you're angry, but we need to figure out how we win in 2020 with policy, with principle, and with actual arguments, where we can address concerns. We can speak to the American people and say, listen, what can I do for you working in government to make this better? Instead, what do we get? Fringe socialist crap and calls for impeachment. Again, right now, we've got a great economy. In fact, it's so great, it's actually been rough for me. I'm trying to find a contractor, so I got to do some housework, and it's really tough. The waiting lists are huge. Everybody's working. Well, I recognize that. And there's a lot of people who are seeing their jobs come back who are very, very happy. And that means a lot to a lot of people. You've also got the problem of far left political correctness and identitarianism, and these things are all great problems. Where are the moderates? So I can appreciate to an extent Gabbard and Yang, who, full disclosure, I've supported. I don't think they're perfect. I think Yang's a really, really smart guy, and I have tremendous respect for him for sitting down with conservatives, going on Fox News, and Bernie went on Fox News too, so I can respect that. And I think this is a good step in the right direction. But I'll tell you what, Bernie Sanders going on Fox News, excellent. Andrew Yang going, what I think he said, I don't remember where it was, but he said it was on the Jimmy Dore maybe, or the Young Turks. He didn't agree with the minimum wage, and I'm like, we got someone who's actually talking nuance here. You don't have to agree with this policy. But I would say this, one last thing. Whether you like Yang or don't like him, the one thing I want all of you to think about is that Yang, whether he's right or wrong, is calm, rational, and willing to have a conversation with someone like Ben Shapiro. And that to me was extremely inspirational. I'm like, this is what we need. We need someone who's running on the Democrat side with left-wing policies who's going to be like, let's just have a calm conversation about it. Could you imagine a country where the Democrats and the Republicans, meet with a smile on their face and shake their hands and just sit there and actually think about the solutions and do a little give and take? It's incredible. Yang's not 100% correct on anything, and Ben Shapiro pushed back on some really great points. And I will throw back to that podcast because it was just awesome. It was awesome to see Yang be like, yeah, and Ben Shapiro be like, yeah, but how about? And I'm like, that's great. You don't have to agree with Yang, but we need more people who are going to be like, I don't care about your tribalism nonsense. I want to have a conversation. I want to figure this out. And they might be right, they might be wrong. But you've got to respect that the mirror image of Cortez is someone like Yang. He's just talking about, hey, here's a problem, here's my proposed solution, what do you think? And then he throws it to Shapiro. I can respect that. I'm gonna leave now. This really pisses me off. I'm sick and tired of this waste of time, waste of words. Gee, it's seriously annoying. Calling for the impeachment of the president does nothing, solves nothing, changes nothing. It's rhetorical garbage, and it's a tribalist virtue signal so you can claim you're fighting the bad orange man. It literally solves no problems. If Trump is impeached tomorrow, nothing gets solved except for your emotional satisfaction. And I got another video coming up for you at 4 p.m. I'm going to stop now on the main channel, youtube.com/Timcast. I will see you then.